Hello fellow hobbyists, today we're going to try a short form technique video on using salt to weather some terrain. I used salt on my Big Mech in the last video, so I wanted to show off a little more of a focused technique. I started off with a piece of the Sork Mekshop and I spray painted it with a basic silver spray paint from the hardware store. The salt is the same salt I used from Mekshop, which was coarse salt that I ground up a little bit. Again, you can use kind of any mix of salt that you want. Here I just took a little bit of a medium-sized paintbrush, dabbing a little bit of water, and then sprinkling some salt. I'm being very focused at this part because there's only a few spots that I want to have the bare metal showing through. So I'm going kind of slow and just picking out a few dabs here and there. You can be as precise or as messy as you want to be in this step. And as I said, I'm just sort of picking out where I want to have actual metal showing through, and so I'm being very precise. It's one of the nice things about the salt technique is that you can create random patterns while still being either as precise or as completely bunko random as you want to be. So once I've done that, I started spraying with the airbrush just to dry it all off really quickly. I could have just waited, but I was impatient to get the video done, so I was using just pure air to dry the salt a little bit better before moving on to the next spot, where I took some Army Painter Strong Tone and put a few really dark patches here and there, just getting a nice random pattern of dark underlayment, and then moved on from there, or will move on from there once I get a few really dark spots, again just sort of random places. I'm going to then move on to some burnt sienna, which is sort of a red-brown, and doing the same sort of thing, random splotches here and there along the panel that we're working with, and that gives us again kind of a red-brown, so it takes us from a dark brown into a red-brown, creating some more of that color variation across the panel, introducing just a little bit of the darker, older kind of rust into the panel. And the trick here is to try not to create actual patterns. Here I'm adding in some red oxide, orange oxide, which is one of my favorite rust colors. As you can see, it's pretty darn orange, especially when in comparison to the previous two paints. And same kind of deal, I'm going across and spraying. One of the things that is a little hard to see in the video, but what I'm doing is I'm actually varying the distance from the piece to the airbrush, so I'm spraying closer and farther away as I go, as I'm making the patterns, which increases the amount of density of the pigments as well as the spread pattern. The next step here is using a little piece of sponge and some cadmium orange paint from Golden, and same kind of random patterns as this airbrush provides, but I'm doing it with a sponge instead, and just sort of dabbing it all over the place. And excuse me, if I was going to stop with just the sponge, I'd probably take a little more time and be more careful, but because I know I'm going to salt later, I'm not too worried about it. Again, using the airbrush to dry things off. From there, we move into, once again, using the salt. I'm gathering up a little pile of salt for myself, and then I'm using a toothbrush this time. I'm going to be a lot less precise, and I'm just kind of flicking the water from the bristles of the toothbrush to create random droplets of water all over my piece. And I'm going through on, I think I did like 3 or 4 passes to get the water sprayed kind of evenly all over the place. And then from there, I'm pretty much just going to dump a bunch of salt all over the place. And I'm not going to really care how much I get, because the water is going to determine how much actually gets left on there. And so as you can see, a lot fell off. And then I go through with my normal Orky Blue that I'm spraying with the airbrush once again in kind of heavy doses everywhere. Let it dry. Once it dries, pick up my handy dandy toothbrush, and I start brushing away all those dried salt crystals to reveal the rusty texture underneath, but leaving a lot of the blue behind where the salt was not there to chip away. And that's pretty much the salt technique. When you, I'll go slow motion here in a second, but as you can see, it just kind of wears away and ends up looking fairly natural, like maybe it got, wind blasted, or again, the paint just kind of chipped naturally because of underneath damage or whatever. And there's a little bit of a close-up so you can see kind of the random patterns of rust everywhere. I decided to go and give you the flip side so I can give you a bit more of a close-up of the technique. As you can see, the brush is very lightly done, but it's instantly showing some really cool patterns between the dark color, the lighter colors, the silver, as it sort of all peeks through. And you know, good luck trying to reproduce that if you're trying to do it manually. I don't think you could. So the randomness of the earlier techniques really, in my opinion, comes together to form something really unique and also really neat looking and really organic looking at the end of the day. So just kind of keep working at it. The trick to this part is just, you know, don't apply too much pressure. You want to put just enough pressure to get the salt off without so much that you're scratching the paint that you want to have there. But don't feel bad if you have to go back over it a couple times to get the remaining salt off. It's better to do that than to either A, leave the salt on, or B, scrub too hard and accidentally use the plastic of the toothbrush to rub paint off that you don't want to rub off. So just kind of keep working at it. I stayed at normal speed here just to kind of show you the amount of time it takes to get into some of those cracks and some nooks and crannies, whatever. And I'm sorry I got off camera a little bit there, but you know, these things happen. Anyway, I'm going to lay it flat here in a second, or not lay it flat, but hold it flat in a second to show you sort of the whole finished piece, and so you can see sort of the entirety of it once it's done, and you can see what that overall result was. As you can see, it's pretty great. It looks like dingy metal. Some parts are more weathered than others. Some parts are rustier than others. On the back side, it looks a little bit more of a shiny metal, less of a rust. We can imagine maybe that side was, you know, the scoured clean for more wind, perhaps. Maybe it was sandblasted or something, or maybe the mechs are working on cleaning the rust off. Who knows? Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and please leave some comments below.